This is Ken Larimore with U of I Extension. I'd like to welcome everyone today to this program on importance of broadband for community survival and e-government innovation and strategy for local government. We will start out. My name's Ken, and I'm a Community and Economic Development Extension Educator serving Clay, Effingham, Fayette, and Jasper counties. I have a BS degree in Ag Economics from SIU Carbondale and an MBA degree from EIU. I have many years of experience with working with TIF areas, enterprise zones, local government officials, and financing. And my team partner is working with the technology portion of the program, and will fill in as needed. It's Zach Kennedy, and Zach is an extension educator in community and economic development. He's providing programming in community leadership development, participatory community planning, organizational development, and community economic development in Champaign, Ford, Iroquois, and Vermilion counties. He is a member of the American Planning Association, the Illinois Association of Community Development Extension Professionals, and the Council for Community and Economic Research. So, our speakers today, we have Barbara Webster, and Barbara is a regional E-team coordinator for Broadband Illinois, also known as Partnership for a Connected Illinois. She is graduated from Lincoln Trail College and Eastern Illinois University with a degree in computers. Barbara has worked as a technology director for 2 school districts and a technology specialist for 12. Her experience includes work as a corporate trainer for Golden Rule Insurance, Healthcare, and as a grant writer for the University of Illinois Extension. She has also consulted for numerous community development projects. Barbara, her husband, and 3 children live in Clark County near West Union, Illinois. And I will introduce Dr. John Gant before his presentation in the second half. So for some of the basic ground rules today, the Telenets are part of the University of Illinois Extension's local government education network, and also a partner with the Illinois Association of County Board Members and Commissioners. The tele-institute director is Amanda Cole, and for the Certified County Officials Program, that's Annette Cole in the Springfield office. So some of the basic rules we'd like to comply with today is press #5 on your phone. That mutes the phone and also mutes the line noise. So the #5 is preferred over the just hitting the mute button. So when you ask a question, what we're going to try to do is keep that to the chat box. If you enter your question in the chat box on the screen, then Zach will see that, and he will include that in the discussion and ask the speaker when the time is correct. So please enter your questions under the chat box, If you really have to voice it out, let Zach know, and he will. You can enter it by voice as well. Our plan today is we're going to have Barbara Webster speak until 4 o'clock, and then take about a 10-minute break, and then Dr. Gant will join us for the rest. The future local government programs, the next one is going to be March 15th on special structure assessment, and then April 19th on siting and permitting wind farms in Illinois. Okay, I believe we're ready for Barbara Webster. I'd like to welcome Barbara. Barbara?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, very good. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for having me, Ken.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here today, and please know that I'm here to answer questions if there are any along the way. If you think of something later, feel free to email either one of the email addresses that are within the presentation, or give me a phone call as well. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the importance of broadband. We'll get started here. And just going to tell you first a little bit about the organization that I'm working for. Broadband Illinois, also known as PCI, is a nonprofit. We're funded through state and federal grants and designated by the state as the broadband organization for the state. We're tasked to help to increase Internet access, adoption, and to publish data. Now, we actually do not go out and do builds to increase access, but we are trying to gather data on where there are needs throughout the state and then work with providers in order to meet those needs. What we have found is that in several rural locations, there are needs for high-speed Internet access, but unfortunately, when it comes to providers, they're in a business and they have to make a profit, which we understand that. So if we can gather needs for 10 to 20 people in one area, then that makes it more logical for providers. So that's just one of the things that we are doing. We're creating E-teams in 10 regions around Illinois, and I'll talk more about that later. These are volunteer E-teams of people that are interested in getting high-speed Internet into their communities and making the most of it if they have it. We're working with colleges and economic development groups to support those E-teams and lending our technical expertise, our data, our website, and various other things to help out local communities. One of the things that I want to express is that we are vendor-provider neutral. We do not support any one provider over another. We work with whoever is out there providing high-speed Internet that can help the communities. So we work with a large number of different providers. And we also are a broadband advocate. We want to see the investment made by providers and made by the federal and state government to be highly successful. So if the broadband is installed, we want to make sure that businesses know how to utilize it well and that private residents know how to find the best deal for themselves and the best service for themselves. So we are a broadband advocate. These are the E-teams that are set up, the regions that are set up around the state. We currently have volunteer E-teams in the light green area. That is the Southeast Central E-team. The ECIDC Regional Plan Commission, or Regional Development, Economic Development Organization, has taken the lead for that particular region. They had a broadband initiative for the past couple years, and when Broadband Illinois started, it was a logical partnership. So we have worked on different projects together to look at access needs around that region and to look at adoption needs where people actually have access but need to know how to actually plug in or how to use it well. So we're working in that region. Also, the Connect SI region, Southern Illinois region, which is kind of a dark blue color at the bottom of the map, is another area that we have an E-team active. They have been working on broadband for several years, funded and supported through SIU and Connect SI. They've got a great project going down there, and we are, again, partnering in that region. We are looking at expanding out into the rest of the state, and we will be doing that in the coming months. We're having meetings with Western Illinois University now to try to get something going in the red region over in this area. Again, these are volunteer E-teams, people that are looking at economic development opportunities, whether it's through new builds or whether it's through promoting what they currently have. Also looking at needs throughout the region. You know, what are their needs for internet access for their communities and for their rural residents and for their regular residents in town and out of town. So we're looking to help out with that. And we'll talk a little bit more about the E-teams a little bit later on in the presentation as well. But just keep in mind, you might be looking to see where are you located on the map. One of the things with the E-teams that we are doing, trying to get them to meet at least quarterly or maybe even every other month to talk about the access needs within the region and how those potentially could be addressed, and to gather those access needs through the region and work with providers to try to get those addressed. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but just keep in mind where you might be in this overall picture. Also want to mention that our regions exactly match the DCEO regions, and that was on purpose so that we could also partner with DCEO to try to make more of an impact throughout the state. What is broadband? I had to throw this slide in here because sometimes it seems like a very technical term, and it can be technical, but really it just means high-speed, always-on connection to the Internet. We do not consider satellite as broadband for a variety of different reasons, but as a rural resident, I know myself that in some areas that's all the access that people have for residential use. So even though we don't consider it, we still acknowledge that sometimes that is an option that people have. The technical term for broadband or definition for broadband is at the bottom, and if you really need to know that, then you have this on the slideshow. But again, just high-speed, always-on connection to the Internet. What are some uses? These are pretty common sense, but I just wanted to put them up there. Obviously, we've seen a lot of business websites, both for established businesses and for businesses that utilize the Internet to sell services. Business-to-business communications, we see that a lot with corporations, banks, financial institutions, for finding answers. Google is my second brain. I tell everybody that if I need to know something, then I usually Google it. Here's a couple other websites that I use quite a bit. MapQuest, if I'm traveling. I do like my GPS, but I also like to have a printed out copy. So just a variety of great resources out there for information. Purchasing, selling, world news, education. One of the things we're seeing a lot of is a transition in education to give people more options to have online classes. And one of the interesting things that we have found in our region is that we have a lot of students, for example, at Lakeland College, that take online classes, and when they log in from the college to take the online class. So one of the assumptions is that maybe they have to work during the time slot that the regular class is allocated. So they can then take their class whenever they like and still be able to work a job and fit that into their lifestyle. So that's one option that we determined, and also it could be that they do not have good access to internet at home. So even though they're taking an online class, they have to go to the college to take that. So that's something to consider. A couple others, weather and travel. Weather is really important when we're talking about businesses that are very dependent on that. That might be agriculture. So farmers can be in the field and can check the weather channel to see when a storm actually is going to hit their area. Government services, you're going to learn quite a bit more about that in the next presentation. Illinois has their own website. Most government entities have a website that you can go to. EGovernment is a terminology that we use for services that governments can provide on the Internet. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's something that we're seeing a lot more of. Jobs. People can look for jobs on the Internet. And then there's some agriculture sites as well at the bottom. Connection options. This is just my definition of these. Basically, you hear about fiber. Fiber is king in my mind because it's the best that you can get. Most areas don't have fiber to the home. Some areas do. When it comes to businesses, some may have fiber to the business. It just depends on the area and what the providers have available. Landline DSL, you'll hear the term DSL. Basically, it just uses your phone lines and is a good option if you're within a few miles from town with service, from a town with service. Now, if you're a residential person and you're 6 to 7 miles from town, it's probably not an option for you. But you can also call one of the DSL providers just to find out for sure. Cable is an option for some people. Tower wireless and satellite is also an option. And at the bottom, you'll also notice that I put dial-up at the bottom, which that is an option for some people as well, but that is a slower option.
Adam. The DSL? Adam's network? Yeah. They have DSL, they have fiber, they have wireless.
Was there a question in the background? Okay, I'll go ahead. Okay, just a little definition again. Middle mile and last mile. You'll hear those terminologies. Again, just my definition. I'm not getting real technical here. Middle mile, I consider that the interstate or the main roads. Illinois Century Network is one build that is happening in our area and in several areas of the state. That is actually a state build funded through a federal grant. That's considered a middle mile. They do not go directly to the building in most locations. Now, they will for some libraries and some schools and some other entities, but only a few because they do not have the assets to go that last mile. What happens with that, if it's a middle mile build or a middle mile option, then other providers have the opportunity to use that middle mile in order to go to the last mile. And I consider the last mile the side street and driveway to your door. So someone else provides that last mile. Some providers provide both. Again, some of the larger providers, AT&T, Frontier, Consolidated, they provide both the middle mile and the last mile. So it just depends on the situation. How to find providers. Okay, if you need to find a provider and you're a residential person or even a business person, you can ask your neighbors or the neighboring businesses what they use and what they like. The local library or the school likely has access, so you can get their opinion on their providers. Our website, broadbandillinois.org, allows you to go to the website and type in your address. Again, you'll have to go to the library if you don't have access at home or at your business to do that. But you can go to the website, type in your address. It will pull up a list of potential providers for you, and then you can research whether that provider will work for you or not. Also, I have given the phone number and email address of our organization so that you can call in if you have further questions if that does not work for you. So feel free to pass that along to people in your community if they want to find out where they might be able to find residential broadband. I also want to mention that for businesses, a lot of times there are other options. Even if it does not list for a business under broadbandillinois.org, if it doesn't list a provider for them that they're interested in, a lot of the bigger providers will make it happen for businesses because it's financially beneficial for them to maybe do a build to the business. So they do want to call the local providers if they're a larger business to see if maybe it's an option, even if it's not on the list. Here's a sample of our webpage. It has changed slightly since this PowerPoint was put up. but it's basically the same. The little white box here is where residents can put in their addresses or businesses can put in their addresses to see what might be options in their area. Again, if it's a business, they can check with other providers in their area to see if they might serve businesses as well. On our website, you'll also find maps, which will show coverage for your county. We'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. Choosing an internet provider. Some of the options to consider are availability. Sometimes you only have one or two options. Price, speed, reliability. Sometimes you might think you're getting a good deal, but I would talk to your neighbors just to make sure that it is a reliable option. Usually they are, but you just want to be sure. Technical support and staff. If you have like an elderly person that is interested in getting internet, they probably want to make sure that they have a phone number that they can call if they have problems with their internet or something of that nature. And I know myself, I want to have a phone number available so that I can call if something's wrong with it. Need to consider what you plan to use it for, because some providers can give you better broadband access, higher speeds than others, and also your download limits. And for a resident, that is a consideration, because if you utilize a provider that has a download limit, you will not be able to watch Netflix or things of that nature. If you do, you really have to monitor your usage, because if you go over the download limit, either they will charge you an additional fee or they will slow down your internet. And that's just part of the system, and that's how it works. Not every provider has a download limit, but some do. And there's reasons behind that, but I won't go into that. That's more technical. Okay, I wanted to show you some of the coverage maps that we have through Broadband Illinois PCI. I thought this was kind of interesting because I threw up 4 different maps for 4 different counties. Green is good, very good coverage, high-speed coverage. Yellow is not bad at all. And then we get into the red areas, which is a slower speed, and white, currently we are showing no coverage in those areas. Now, I want to specify that the data on our maps is based on provider-given data. There may be areas where a provider is showing that they have coverage, but maybe it's at the edge of their coverage area, and it's really difficult for them to know for certain until they send a technician out there that coverage is available in that area. So if you find that you're looking at your map on our webpage and you know that one area does or does not have coverage, please let us know, because that is part of our job to verify the data that has been given, and also to find if there's other wireless providers or other providers that for whatever reason have not reported their data. I was at a meeting in Paris the other day and found a wireless provider that we did not have their data on, so we're going to add that to our maps as well.
Also, we have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Are these maps available for all 102 counties in Illinois?
Yes, they are. If you go to our website, you will be able to find the map of your county. Absolutely.
Okay. That was the second part of their question, was where to access those.
Yes, it should be on our website. And if you go to eTeams on the tab on our website at the top, you should be able to find the county maps. And if for whatever reason you can't find it, feel free to email me and I'll send you a direct link. But every map in the state should be up.
Great, thank you.
No problem. Another thing I want to mention about the maps, we are constantly adding data. So when there are new upgrades, which I know Cellular One is providing some new towers in the state, in our area, Lawrence County in particular. So we will find in the next year that some of this white area will turn probably yellow because of the service that they provide. So new builds, will not be reflected on these maps until they actually go live and we get the data reported. But again, if you'll look at the differences between the counties, I thought that's very interesting to consider. Why is broadband important? We talked about online learning, distance education. It gives entrepreneurs and small business owners the opportunity to compete with large corporations. We just came in last night from California, and the tech companies in California are amazing. The wealth that they have created for people in that area. So one of the things that I think is interesting is that just because we're in Illinois does not remove us from those opportunities. As long as our communities have access to high-speed internet, the entrepreneurs in this community can also develop web pages and web companies and can utilize the web for promoting whatever product or service that they currently have. Connects people to healthcare services. There's a lot of new options with healthcare services, makes government services more readily available to citizens. Again, the EGovernment is just a term that we use when we're talking about services provided through the internet, whether it's information, documents, whatever it might be, through government entities. It can save companies and organizations money. I know that I myself work from home a couple days a week, which I would not be able to do that without high-speed internet. And it also saves gas money for people. We know how important that is today. And allows friends and families to communicate easily, whether that's through basic email, whether they're using Skype to video conference from, a plane trip to China. Maybe it's, a father that's trying to talk to his kids because he's away for a few weeks in another country. So, we see a lot of opportunities for that as well. Again, one piece of the economic development puzzle is not the end-all, be-all, but it's one important piece of the economic development puzzle, and it's one that we don't want to miss out on in Illinois. A couple things that I wanted to mention, too. People will want to know if a house has high-speed internet access before purchasing. Now, that's not going to happen every time today, but I have 2 teenagers, and I guarantee that when they go to purchase a house in 5 or 10 years, they will want to know what kind of internet access they have at that location. And that's the generation that will be our future purchasers. It will be different. I mean, they will have a different outlook on what they demand for basic necessities in homes and in businesses. Again, many businesses will not consider locations unless there's good internet access. And just another statement, teenagers have never known a world without the internet. It's part of who they are. They always have their nose in the electronics or have to check their phone or want to check their Facebook page. And I know that sometimes that may be irritating, but it is who they are, and they will want it when they become adults. So it's something we need to consider. Another little tidbit about economic development. If only we had fought for a railroad. If only we'd fought for an interstate. If only we'd fought for high-speed internet. I really think that making sure that our communities, both rural and in the cities, have good high-speed internet is a key piece of the economic development puzzle. Otherwise, we will be at a disadvantage from other communities. Okay, halfway through the PowerPoint. I was going to take a little break and see if there were any questions at this point in time. If not, I will go ahead and feel free to do the questions and answers.
Folks, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question over using your voice, you can press #5 and go ahead. Or if you'd like to submit it via the chat box, that's also an option. We'll just give you a minute.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go on. Again, if you think of a question later, feel free to email me or give me a call. Okay, I got a little fun tidbit. Oh, go ahead.
Could you tell me the difference between upstream and downstream? Which is going to the internet?
Upstream and downstream. If you are downloading something, that's usually it's different for residential customers and for business customers, because usually business customers need both. They need where they're downloading from somewhere else, that would be downstream. If they're uploading to someplace, like if they're sending pictures, if you're a resident and you're sending pictures to Walmart, that's like you're uploading something. But if you're downloading a movie, that's where you're downloading something. So that's a very good question because businesses usually need both speeds to be about the same and both allotments to be about the same because they will do both. They will send and receive. Whereas if you're a resident, you will probably do more downloading, like downloading of movies, downloading of pictures, downloading of music, things like that. So a lot of times the providers will give you more download than they will upload. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Any other questions? Good question. Okay. Here's a little fun tidbit. Forbes magazine, 9th most powerful person in 2011, college dropout, worth $17.5 billion, and it's not Bill Gates. It's Mark Zuckerberg, and he's 27 years old. Now, I know, maybe that's a fluke, but maybe someone's not making quite that much, but he's an entrepreneur, and he started out in college, and he was very into the technology. So it's just something that we have to make sure that we have those opportunities available so that more people can have that. Internet adoption. This is just a little graph that shows the percentage of American adults age 18 plus who use the internet over time. So it shows the increase from 95, and actually mid-90s is when I was working in the school districts. School districts were actually just getting online in the mid-90s with high-speed internet, and since then you have seen a steady increase in the general public getting online. Right now it says as of May 2011, 78% of adults use the internet. I thought that was an interesting statistic. Here's some basic EGovernment ideas. You'll get some more information on EGovernment later on. Just emailing documents to people. You have someone call in and they need a form, they need a permit, they need something. You now have the option to say, would you like me to email that document to you? That way you don't have to get out the stamps and get out the letters and drag out the document. Someone can just email it to them. That's a very basic form of e-government. Having documents online, such as permits and licenses. You can tell someone what your web page is when they call in and need a permit or a license. Now, again, you will always have to have that available to send to them because not everyone will have access. But as these teenagers grow up, most people will have access and will want to be able to get that document immediately versus driving 5 to 10 miles into town to get it or waiting the 5 days of mail time. So another option for you. Information online, where you can post information and people can get that online. And sometimes even paying bills online. Now that's a little more complicated. You would have to have someone behind the scenes setting that up for you. But that's your option to decide. These are very basic e-government ideas. I did give you a website from a city in California just to get a general idea of what some governments are utilizing it for. And I also want to stress that you must weigh your time savings against the maintenance of the current information. I really am an advocate for technology, but only when it helps you, only when it makes sense. If it actually makes for more work for you, then I'm not an advocate, unless people will scream if you don't put it online. I think you really have to weigh that against, what works best for you, the general public, and how much maintenance it involves. Just something to consider. Any questions on those just basic ideas about e-government? Okay, one of the things I would recommend would be to know your providers. I would have a designated contact at your county and city, someone who communicates with the providers, just so that they stay in the loop. It may not be with every provider, maybe it's just the main group of providers for your area, but I think it's good to have someone that stays in touch with the providers. One of the things that you can do to help providers is ask them if they need ditch access when you're doing water and sewer lines. Maybe you have a big build in your community and you're going to have the ground open and there's a potential for a provider to lay conduit in that area. Now there's probably a lot of logistics behind that. But before you start doing the final plans for that, it probably wouldn't hurt to call the local providers to see if there's any kind of partnership on that, if they can benefit, which in turn benefits your community. Work with providers to get estimates for your industrial parks. I would be proactive with that. We're always looking to try to pull in businesses for Illinois, and if you can know ahead of time how much it would cost and how long it would take to get high-speed internet to your industrial park, that's better than having to wait and try to get a hold of the provider and trying to get an estimate. If you can have a general idea when you're having a conversation with, like a call center who might want to move into your industrial park, at least you have an estimate. And, if you have the money to make sure that that's available in your industrial park, that's fabulous. And if you don't, at least you can have a general idea of what it would take to get it there and be proactive about that. Helping providers when there are issues. Maybe they have permits or other hurdles that they have to deal with. I know one particular situation where we had to build in our region, and there was some trouble because there were some differences with the road commissioner. And so it was really helpful because a couple of the leaders in the community were able to discuss the situation with him and to move the project forward. So, just any way that you might be able to help them to help your community. Work with providers to know how to market what is available in your community. I think that's one thing that maybe we as Illinois don't do well is to tell our assets. If you have great high-speed internet in your community, then you need to tell that to people. You need to tell that when you're talking about your community. Also stay in touch with providers to know what's new in your area. Just a suggestion. Okay, when marketing, tell what is good about your broadband again. When doing strategic planning, consider broadband. If you're working with your regional plan commissions and you know there are needs in your county or in your city, work with them to try to plan that into your long-term plan. When you're writing CDAP grants, when you're doing builds with those, with sewer and water, consider broadband in those plans. Here's a few new builds and expansions within Illinois. Now, there are many. These are just a few. I know that Frontier has some new offerings. Clearwave in Southern Illinois has a new build. Joint Wireless, Cell One, ICN, Clearwave. Again, Clearwave, I mentioned that again. Metro Network Services. The Illinois Cooperatives. They are really being aggressive in trying to find creative ways to reach their customers. Their customers are usually the ones outside of the 5-mile limit of town or the 4-mile limit of town, so there's some new offerings there. Consolidated has been really good in our region, and again, many others. But just, finding out what the new offerings are and helping to get the news out to your community so that they know what their opportunities are. Wabash Telephone Cooperative, here's another example. They recently applied for and received a loan from the USDA for $21 million. And they're based out of Louisville, and they're installing 777 miles of fiber optics. So it's a phenomenal project. People will have fiber to the home in many areas, and just something that's going on within Illinois. Here's a map of the Illinois Century Network project. This is going right through my area. This is Clark County. This is a $96 million project. Again, it's mainly middle mile, so it's going to be dependent upon private providers to provide the last mile in those areas if it's financially feasible for them to do so. Know that Illinois Century Network will do community training on the impact. We just had a meeting in Paris the other day. We had 48 people attend the meeting from the community to express needs, but Illinois Century Network will step out and kind of explain what the build means to the community. And they'll be really upfront about it and tell you that, it's mainly middle mile. If the last mile is a possibility, then that's probably going to be through local providers or other creative ways. Another new build This is Metro Network Services. It's a privately owned organization. Again, it's mainly middle mile, but phenomenal for this general area. Something for you to look at later. And if you do have access needs within your area, you can send those to me directly. This is my email address. Again, we're working to try to address those needs, try to create volunteer e-teams, and I would suggest not leaving your county out of those e-teams. One of the things that we will likely do is to tag on to regional movements that are already happening. Again, ECIDC within the light green region and Connect SI within the dark blue region had good initiatives going, and so we were able to partner with those. Western Illinois University has a good initiative for economic development, and so it's something that we can help to bring resources to the table so that you can look at where are the access needs for high-speed internet in our area and how can we help to address those. So feel free to let me know if there's a contact within your county that would be a good contact, or if there's an organization that you feel might be a lead organization for these areas.
Barb, we have a question in the field.
Yes.
It's from Steve H., and he wants to know, can CDAP grants be used to apply for broadband?
That is a good question. I cannot say yes for certain, but I can research that for you. I do know there's been a lot of discussion about that, and I do know that sometimes we need to look at current policies to change them in light of the need for broadband as a utility. So, Steve, if you would email me at that email address there, I can get a specific answer from DCEO on yes or no. Does anyone else on the call happen to know if they have ever applied for CDAP grants and included broadband in that application?
Pound 5 to unmute if you'd like to speak.
Okay, Steve, I will find that answer out for you just to make certain that is an option. I will tell you that I know Lawrence County applied for a CDAP grant and was awarded for their industrial park, but had not included broadband in that and did consider that later. So I think it is a possibility, but I need to confirm that with the CEO, and I will do that for you. So again, Steve, if you could please email me, I would appreciate it. I will get the answer for you. Good question. I wanted to mention this. Digital Divide Grant from DCEO. I hope you can see this entire thing. It's a lot of information. It's a little bit shoved together. I apologize. But there is a grant that's due March 16th that I had to show you. And feel free to email me if you have any other questions. DCO is the lead on this grant. It's for computers and training, and there is no match on this grant. But there are certain restrictions on who is eligible. Okay, just a moment, please. Okay, what next? Just to finish up, these are suggestions from me, making contact with your local internet providers and having one main contact person in your organization. Find out what your internet needs are in your community. Determine how to address those needs, working with providers and talking with other communities. Making sure your county has someone representing it on your volunteer e-team, which is, again, we are working to establish those throughout the state and will be establishing those. Using internet when it saves time for your government services, and when planning, considering broadband. Being proactive with industrial parks. When there's broadband in your area, market it. Tell that you have it. And helping businesses and residents find possible providers. Again, you can utilize our website or whatever means is available to you. And determine what new builds mean to your community. Any final questions?
Again, you can use the chat box, or you can press #5 to unmute and ask your question. We have a question from Ken Larimore. He says, even if broadband is available, people may not know how to use it to the fullest. What is being done to educate people on broadband usage?
That's a very good question. One of our goals is to advocate for adoption. So we are working with universities and community colleges to find what training they have available for the public and to advertise that. Also, Broadband Illinois recently hired someone to do marketing for broadband, to do press releases and to get the information out there about great uses of broadband. So that's a very good question, and that's something that we are working on throughout the organization. Any other questions? Again, feel free to email me if you think of a question later. Here's another email address that we have that will go to the general organization. And again, there is our website. And I thank you very much for allowing me to speak today.
Well, thank you very much, Barbara Webster. That was a very enjoyable and informative program. Maybe now's a good time to take a break, and then we will come back in 10 minutes and enjoy Dr. John Gant's program. So let's pause now for a break, and we'll reconnect in 10 minutes. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone back to today's Local Government Information Education Network programming. Today's program, Importance of Broadband for Community Survival and EGovernment Innovation and Strategy for Local Government. Again, my name is Ken Larimore. Zach Kennedy's in Champaign on the technology controls. And we've just finished an excellent program from Barbara Webster with PCI. And next we have Dr. John Gant.
Ken, we had one more question in the field before we move on to John.
Okay, great.
Carroll County wrote in, how can you guarantee security in paying bills via the Internet? And I guess, Barb, if you want to field that one.
Sure, I can do that. One of the things that's absolutely necessary if you are going to be paying bills via the Internet is to get some good technical advice from someone on setting up that on your web page. Buying things on the Internet is becoming pretty commonplace. People are pretty comfortable with that, but you as an organization want to feel comfortable that your site is secure. So whoever is working with your website, if you have that done in-house, you may have to consult with someone to do the bill paying piece of your website just so you feel comfortable with it. And just a little inside piece of information, and this is kind of unrelated but unrelated. I myself am a little skittish about buying things on the Internet, and so I have one particular credit card that I utilize with a $500 limit. And so if anyone ever did steal my credit card number, then I know I only have $500 that I have to deal with. Again, that's kind of a side note on that. But when it comes to your web page itself and setting that up to pay bills, you really need someone that works with that and is an expert on that. Again, I would check with other communities that already have that on their web page. Maybe someone that's similar in size to your community, and see who they utilize for that service and how well they like them.
Very good. Thank you, Barbara. Are there any other questions at this time? Okay. We will now move on to the next portion of the program. Dr. John Gant. Dr. John Gant is currently a research associate professor at the Graduate School of Library and Information Science of the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. John earned MS in 1992 and a PhD in 1998 from the Heinz School of Public Policy of Carnegie Mellon University in Public Policy and Information Systems. Dr. Gant earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan in 1987 and was formerly a professor at the Maxwell School in School of Information Studies at Syracuse University and the School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. John also has taught executive education courses for the U.S. Department of the Navy and for government leaders from over 40 countries. And I'd like to welcome Dr. John Gant today, and we look forward to his program.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Excellent. Welcome.
Okay, I have to apologize because I'm actually at the Chicago Midway Airport on the way to Washington, D.C., and, well, by the luck of technology that I can my laptop on the Internet and have this great opportunity to talk with you today. But I do apologize for any background noise, that type of thing. But as I'm going along, any questions, please let me know. And numbers here will actually build on some of the things Barbara mentioned in her talk as well, too. I think she did a really nice job of outlining the importance of broadband and how it can be useful in that kind of thing. I'm going to build on that to look at the particular application of using broadband as a way for reaching out to your citizens and serving them through electronic government types of services online. And so what I'd say is I'll describe what EGovernment is and how it's being used in the country, and then dig into some of the challenges of doing. Many of you are, have already started to.
John, you're cutting in and out. I don't know if there's really much you can do about it, but it is kind of intermittent.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you kind of.
Is that better?
That's a little bit better. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. And so, as I mentioned, I also talked about what some different approaches that governments are taking to try and overcome some of the challenges of implementing e-government systems. And, there's issues of building the computer systems themselves and then protecting the systems and then also designing so that they're very user-friendly. So I'll talk about those issues as well today. And as I mentioned, if you've got any questions or if the sound is bad or whatever, just let me know. So I actually have been doing a lot of work in e-government since the early 90s, and a lot of work in the mid-90s on trying to help governments implement geographic information systems as a way of delivering information to the public. And through that work early on, I just really got to witness firsthand just how important it is for local governments to be able to provide good, reliable information to the public. That information is so important for our democratic processes in terms of participating and making decisions about government and that type of thing. But it's also important for a sense of connectedness, for people to feel a part of their community, so they can have a say in how government works or how the school district works and things like that. And as we've moved forward from the mid-90s to where we are now today, we've got widespread use of computers and so forth, but we're also seeing a lot of governments really developing applications to help people find the information they need, to help people get services they might need, and so forth. And so there's a question, though, that continues to be raised is, are we doing enough? And what are those critical issues that we've got to try and address so we can be more successful at doing electronic government? Barbara in the earlier presentation made a really good point. I think she and I both are people who both love technology. I love playing around with computers and all the new things that are out there, with the iPhones and iPads and things like that. But, the thing that the truth of the matter is that technology is only a tool, and it's only useful if it really adds value to the things you're trying to do in government. So if you're ever along the strategy where you're doing things for technology's sake, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's really about trying to match technology to the needs within your community and being very sensitive, to that. So one is, I've conducted a number of studies that I've published around the adoption of e-government, and when I talk and interview with local government leaders, I get a lot of great, exciting stories about how the internet's being used, like to pay taxes or to give information about snow removal or garbage removal or environmental issues, or helping with school districts, or helping to do with planning. A lot of just innovative things. But at the same time, these government leaders will also say that they struggle, and they struggle because they're building the systems, and it's not automatic that citizens want to use an online service. When you're upset about something that's going on in your neighborhood, you want action, and you want to go talk to somebody, and then oftentimes you're referred to a website. Well, that can be dissatisfying. The site might be hard to use, might be hard to find information. You might not have a good connection, and you spend more time trying to figure out how to get the computer connected than actually calling up somebody or going down to the office and so forth. I mean, yes, there's great benefits in terms of saving time, but there's also, you have to make sure that the things you build also are satisfying to use as well. Costs are incredible to keep track of when it comes to e-government, because you've got both the direct cost of building the system, but you've got all these other indirect costs of making changes to your organization, the training costs, the maintenance costs, the upgrade of your software, and things like that you've got to really keep in mind when you're creating these budgets to build these e-government systems. And of course, security is probably the chief concern of most government leaders. You're putting valuable information online, and are you releasing information that might identify people, so there's privacy concerns? Are your systems set up so that they're secure, so people can't get into them and break into your systems? And then there's the thing that's not talked about a lot in public, but I hear a lot about it in my interviews as well, is all the drama that goes on behind the scenes. Because, you're talking about changing the organization when you're bringing in these computer systems. And so there's, as I say, too much drama for your mama. There's a lot of organizational issues and legal issues and political issues that happen behind the scenes that you also have to wrestle with as well, too. It was funny, I did a focus group with the International City Managers Association not long ago. I was doing some work with their Center for Performance Management, and I was in this focus group, I said, what are the big challenges? And someone said, e-government's just like sewers. You don't hear anything about a sewer until the sewer breaks, and then you're up to your knees in the stuff from the sewer. Well, the same thing with e-government. When you have a break-in or you're trying to change the organization, that's when you hear about the problems and so forth. And it does cause a lot of stress for people that are governments that are trying to put in these kinds of systems. So in my work, and the thing I'm really interested in and what I really want to focus on today is how can we create value through e-government. And I think there's three different things that we need to do and we need to consider. First thing is we've got to design the system to meet the needs of each citizen. Secondly, we have to make sure that we're developing all the right resources and capabilities within our organization to deliver e-government services. And then thirdly, e-government is a honeypot, as they say in the hacker world and in the information technology security world. In other words, it attracts those people who want to break into your computer systems. So you've got to make sure that you're investing money and time and resources to secure your system, to protect it. And then the third thing is, I think it's important that your government does not depend on it. In other words, if the system goes down, can you still function without the computer system? Do you really understand what's happening inside the computer system? Do you have control over it and so forth? And so I think it's important also, in addition to securing it, also making sure that you're not depending completely on it as well, too. So let me just highlight these 3 points more clearly. So there's great promise of EGovernment. As I said, I've seen it over the years, and it is part of that promise is it is a great platform for communication, communicating to the public and to your citizens. It's the tool that we're seeing now, especially with social media, where there's greater opportunity for collaboration, to have like broadcast meetings, to have a chat board there to talk about different issues, to share reports, and to seek comments and response from the public using the internet as the platform for doing that. We see it as a tool for transformation, redesigning how government works, developing online or digitizing, things we used to do offline and bringing those online. So it has the potential to transform, hopefully with the eye of providing greater value and also improving the cost and efficiency and effectiveness of your services. And then there's always this promise of education as well, too, and being able to support lifelong learning and that type of thing. The thing that we're seeing now is what they call the Web 2.0. So what this means is the early days of the Internet, what they call now Web 1.0, was about using the Internet as a tool for communicating. The information was organized, through web pages and that type of thing. Web 2.0 is about participation. It's about allowing people to have two-way communication, working together, sharing, creating your own content. The social life is becoming digitized and so forth. And so we're seeing that's actually changing how we're thinking about e-government. And I want to elaborate and give you some examples to really make this point clear. Well, and when I think about where we are now, in fact, I'm just sitting, like I said, I'm out here at the airport, and you know how it goes at the airport. There's a whole cluster of us that are over at one of those charging centers. So it's about 5 or 6 people over there all trying to charge up their computers, get on the internet, and that type of thing. And everybody except for me, once they got logged into the internet, guess where the first place they all went? These were all traveling business people. The first place all of them went to was Facebook. I just cracked up. I heard Barbara talking about her 2 teenage daughters. I have a teenage daughter as well, too, and I know their life revolves around social media and Facebook and Twitter. But here are, seasoned folks, let's just say, the 40s and 50s, all cluster around this charging island, all checking their Facebook status and so forth. And so it's really showing just how seductive Facebook is. You're busy on the road, and you get on there and see what the latest news is of your friends and family and so forth. And that's made it seductive for us to want to think about doing e-government. The second thing is, we're talking now at 140 characters or less with our Twitter tweets. And so we're developing a whole new language and a whole new way of talking as well, too. And many of us are also starting to use software that's, in the cloud, like with Google Docs, for example, and things like that. So we're seeing all these things, and it's so easy to use these tools once you know what they are, how they work, and as soon as you log in, you get an account, it's amazing how quickly you can get up and running and so forth. I tell you, if you haven't started Facebook, I tell you the mistake that I made. I didn't realize how easy it was to get hooked into it. So the night I logged into Facebook, there was a question that popped up and said, "Hey, do you mind if we would you mind sharing your address book with us?" And I did. The default was said yes, and I said, "Okay, go on ahead." I woke up the next morning. I checked Facebook, and next thing you know, I'm connected to over 1,000 people, and many of those people came off my address book, and I didn't even know who all these people were, and I couldn't figure out what had happened. The software, made all those digital connections for me automatically, and next thing you know, I'm immersed in this network. I'm looking at all the news of old college friends and high school friends and, family stuff and so forth. And, the software went out and found all my connections that were in my address book and found if they were on Facebook and made a connection to them automatically. And I was totally blown away, by that. So there's something that, that's easy about using these tools once you decide to sign up. And so a lot of government leaders are saying, how can we everybody's doing this, but how can we really leverage it in a smart way to really make a difference? And that's the thing I really want us to think about. When we look at where e-government has come from to where we are now, there's 4 different levels of e-government. Barbara mentioned that kind of the basic level, you're using the internet to talk about your government. There's basic information there. As you move on, you can permit transactions like for paying taxes or for any permitting or any types of fees that you might have and so forth. To the point now where we're talking about transformation, looking at the whole enterprise and trying to connect all the computer systems together so they talk to each other. And then all the people in the organization so they can be connected to each other and share data and work collaboratively and things like that. Completely automating, the administrative process. So when you take a payment, it already goes through all the accounting systems. It goes through the budget system. The permitting might happen, like for example, and it all does it all automatically. And so we're seeing a lot of ideas of how to transform government as well. And the key point is that as we look at these different approaches to e-government, the complexity increases as you try and do more things. And that complexity has the promise of helping your citizens, but it comes at great cost. It comes at great cost of, like I said, retraining your the teams of people that work with you. It comes at great cost because you're putting your information in a new place, and are you doing enough to protect it? It comes at great cost because now you're saying to people, okay, don't come down here in person, but go online. But when you look at service models, when somebody comes to your service center, you as a manager, you can verify, hey, yeah, there's good service quality, they treated the customers well, and so forth. Now all of a sudden you put that out there on internet space, you lose that touch with the customer. You lose that interaction. You lose that human connection that allows you to really keep an eye on, are things working well? Are we really addressing problems? Instead, you have to understand the interactions with the citizens through looking at data and analyzing the data to try and understand, are we doing a good job? So there's a whole new orientation that we've got to really consider as we think about this. So I see a lot of governments making a lot of investments, and there's some important trends that are remaining very strong. First, the whole idea of making e-government citizen-centered remains probably the top priority. Really focus on the individual needs of each and every citizen. And we also see trends in trying to do better governance of e-government, setting up the rules of how the e-government systems will be managed, who has decision-making authority, and that kind of thing. That's also improving. We're seeing a tremendous amount of two-way communication, especially through social media. And we're seeing new ways of participating, again, with social media. And the other really hot trend now is to do application contests. In other words, make your data available to people and let them write their own application as well. So that's something we're seeing in lots of different places, and I'll show you some examples. So when I think about this whole issue, the great opportunity of e-government and then the great challenge, it actually reminded me of this song. I don't know if you guys watched the Grammys the other night or know Adele. Adele's this British singer, young. She's 21 years old, this awesome voice. And she's got this song that was one of the biggest hits ever called Rolling in the Deep. I can't really play it. I don't know if I play it. Maybe if I play it, you guys might catch the tune. Hang on a second. But what I like about this particular song when I heard it, it reminded me of a lot of things that I hear local government leaders go through when they start thinking about e-government. They fall in love with the idea of e-government. They go ahead, they make the investment, they put up the website. They start updating all the technology and stuff, and then they realize, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? There's a lot of problems, a lot of issues I didn't expect. And in many ways, it's similar to what you might go through as a young person in an early romance, and that's what this song sings about, rolling in the deep. Now, hang on here. Normally when I do this, I'm hooked up so you guys can hear it, but hang on. Let me know if you can hear this. Okay, did you guys get a little flavor of that song? I don't know if you heard it, if it came through. But the key thing about this song is, she says, there's this fire starting in my heart. I've got this fever pitch and it's bringing me out of the dark. But here's the disappointment. The scars of your love remind me of us to keep me thinking that we almost had it all. And that's what I hear all the time when I talk to technology leaders. They fall in love with technology, they start to implement it, but they get let down in some heartbreaking sort of way. So there's another lesson from this song that's so important about e-government, is that this song was released in December. By the summer, it became one of the biggest hits of all time. Now, what's really unique about this song is that when the producers released the song, they also released the tracks of the song on the open internet. So music producers were going crazy over this idea, because music is always the other way around, where you control all the tracks of the song so you can earn all the royalties. Well, this music producer said, no, let's do this another way. The internet is all about people getting information, using it how they want to use it, reusing it, giving it to others, sharing it, and so forth. So he said, let's just give it away. Let's totally give it away. And that's what they did. So while this song became the number one hit, there were two other covers that made the top 50 at the same time. The song went viral. It's used from country music acts to rock and roll to pop to hip-hop and so forth. So it cut across all these different genres because they opened up all the guts of the song, the layers, and made them completely available to the public. And that reuse added more value to the song. And there's a lot of lessons there for e-government. There's lessons about, if we do e-government, how do we do it in a way that adds value to the public? And so let me just illustrate how this gets played out. San Francisco has a very innovative parking system. I was in San Francisco a couple summers ago with a student of mine and her boyfriend who was in the FBI, and I flew in on a Saturday, and Sunday they gave me a tour of downtown, and it's near where this cluster of dots are in this map. So we're just riding around, and I noticed that we kept on circling the same block over and over. So I kept on saying, I said, well, this is a really interesting tour. How many times are we going to see this same thing? And then they laugh. They go, oh, we're not touring. We're just looking for a parking spot. And we spent 45 minutes driving around trying to find a parking spot on a Sunday afternoon in San Francisco. So they've got a critical parking need. And so the old way of trying to solve a parking need is, to charge people for parking, to be very strict on enforcing the tickets and things like that. Well, San Francisco went to a smart system where they put sensors in on all the different parking spots and in the parking garages that are owned by the city. So with those sensors, they can detect whether or not there's a car in the spot or not. They've got a smart point of sale type of device for taking your money, so they know how much money has been put in, how much time is on there, and so forth. And so all this information in old days would have just stayed right there in those devices. In contemporary times, that information is sent to a centralized computer, so you're getting real data feeds from those sensors, and it's going to these computers, and then it's being used in models that show the demand for parking in the city. So when you go to this live map, you can actually get 3 different colors. Green means there's a lot of parking available. Yellow means that it's kind of jammed, and red means forget about it. And so that helps the public. This information is sent to your smartphone or other devices. The other thing that they did was they released all this data in an open format for the public to write their own applications. So now you've got people just making their own applications and making them available on the internet. You can download them on a smartphone or on your computer or a website, and you can use that information. And it's turned out to be a very innovative way of getting the public involved with this. And then as a citizen, you can pick the app that you like the most for giving you the parking information as well. So that's a big trend that we're seeing that's out there. And these ideas are happening, and they're a big part of what's happening in this Web 2.0 world. When we look at like using Wikipedia for making wikis, as you know, that's the crowd developing those types of applications and things like that. And the whole idea is to really make it easier to develop things that citizens and the public really want. So strategically, e-government is about focusing on the citizen and trying to figure out strategies to create value to the public where we're depending on the internet and working in with computers to really help citizens do what they want to do. With that strategy, we have to think about how do we build the right kinds of capabilities inside of our organization, what's that going to cost, how do we leverage the know-how of our people that work for us and also citizens for doing things, and then how do we engage citizens through social media. The one thing you've got to think about, regardless of what your strategy is and however you choose to do it, the first thing you have to think about is if you launch an e-government application, like a new website, and your development team wants to play the Field of Dreams theme song, run far away from the proposal. In other words, build it and they will come. It should not be your strategy. Okay? Build it and know they're going to come. And so, in other words, you really need to think hard about what is it going to take for the citizens, the businesses, the other organizations in my community, what's it going to really take for them to use these applications? And it's more than just looking at, the cost savings. Barbara brought that point out, and that is such a critical issue. Is the cost savings. But as she brought out, too, the point that the trade-off is, what's it going to cost for you to get there? So cost savings are important, but you also need to think critically, have we designed this well? When people get on the internet, they come armed with expectations of how the service should work. And just like when you are traveling on an airplane, checking into a hotel, you have certain expectations about the performance or the quality of the service that you're going to get. So you got to make sure your website is very friendly, very easy to use, and that kind of thing. And so when I, in my research studies of looking at this, why citizens adopt, it comes down to, do they think the site is designed well? Does the site really deliver on what it promises? So if you offer a service and you say you're going to provide information, that local citizens want, well, you better provide it in a very user-friendly format. People learn from each other. So how do people learn about your e-government site? So your marketing is very important. Or if you've got training programs, incorporate training programs on how to use the e-government site. There would also be very good to do as well. And then what kind of resources are available in your community to help people learn how to use the internet and then also learn how to use the internet to do government type of services. So, and then to what extent do you have access to the internet? And this is the whole question of this is where the broadband issue becomes so important. If you have good broadband access, that really promotes the use of applications, and it's a two-headed thing. Good applications draw people to the internet, and good internet access draws people to applications. So they work hand in hand. So this is where the products within the state, I think, have great potential to have a large impact because it's going to really open the door to make it easier for citizens to get online and get access to your services. So that becomes an important factor as well. So, and I think you have to really think about these things. When we think about the users, there's different types of users that are out there. And I've done some digging around to try and understand, what's the profile of folks that really spend a lot of time on the Internet. And this is the generation that's, that are teenagers now. Some of the things I thought were interesting. First, they do speak in a whole other language, which just blows me away. But then they have kind of more of a short-term focus on goals, really developing a taste for things where they can get immediate gratification, because you go on the Internet, you can find what you're looking for usually pretty quickly. And so that's really changing the extent to which people are demanding things. People multitask so much more than what they used to. When I talk to my daughter, and she's got a laptop and flipped open, and her iPod and so forth, and she tells me she's listening to me, but I never see her two eyes, And then I'll ask her, then that question a father always asks, okay, then what did I just say? And of course she'll say it verbatim, what I just told her. But that's the generation that's behind us, that we're raising right now, that we've got to think about. And then they're also, what's very interesting, very open to exchanging ideas in the Internet space. And this is something, of all the four things, this is the one that surprises me the most, is just how comfortable people are exchanging ideas and putting ideas into action. Being trained through Facebook and Twitter to have these virtual relationships, and they come with so much emotion and connection to the other person. Well, it's actually building good skills to be able to collaborate in a virtual space as well too, and so forth. So a lot of research is showing that the people who are comfortable exchanging ideas in this kind of space will tend to be the ones that will be real comfortable in terms, if you had an online meeting about a hearing, a study group like we have in Champaign about a particular topic, that could work. But if you're in a community where folks still like that in-person face-to-face thing, it may not work as well as you'd like. So I thought it was really interesting. The second key driver around e-government, of course, is the extent to which broadband is becoming available. And and Barbara really did a nice job outlining what's happening in the state. I like those four maps she had that showed different regional variation in broadband. This is a little bit more national. And we're seeing the emergence of what I'm calling gigafiber communities. There's places like Kansas City, Chattanooga, that are putting in gigabyte fiber to the home, or to the community. You have like 100 megabytes going to the home. I'm part of the Urbana, the UCW project, the Urbana-Champaign Big Broadband Project, where we're doing a similar type of thing in Urbana-Champaign. And when you look at this map, you can see the rings where the broadband is going in, and the yellow areas are low-income areas that are will be homes that will receive this broadband service as well. So I'm directing the part of the work around the adoption of this broadband. And at the same time that we're working on the demand side, there's a lot of people that are involved on the government side, trying to really working hard, putting plans together to make improvements to their online presence and that type of thing as well. It's a lot of work. There's no doubt about it. The other thing that's really driving this are mobile devices. And this is another frustrating point that I hear from local government leaders. They say, okay, we're caught up, we're on the Internet, we got some things going now, and then now it's that we're getting some, but still our citizens aren't completely satisfied, because now everybody's using mobile devices, smartphones, and they're hitting our website. So, originally the website might have been designed for a 15-inch screen. Now it's you got to think about, okay, now how do I condense all this so it can be available over mobile devices? And this is becoming so critical because last year, this past, or 2 Christmases ago, was the first time that mobile devices outsold desktops. And we're never going to see that again. From now at this point forward, we're going to see this exponential growth in mobile devices, particularly around the smartphones and the tablets. And so when you are designing your e-government applications, not only do you have to design for the desktop and the larger screen, but also give the same type of experience on a smaller device as well. And that's really causing a lot of headaches as well, too. The other big trend, of course, is this mashing up. When you hear about, Barbara mentioned going out to Silicon Valley and sort of feeling the tech energy out there. And a big part of that tech energy is that you got people that are still doing the traditional programming from scratch. But the other wave of that energy is what are called mashups. Mashup is the idea that you take existing software applications that are out there and you combine them together. And they're written in a way that makes it very easy to combine them together. So that San Francisco example is a mashup. Another example is this mashup between Craigslist and Google Maps. The original Craigslist listed, all different kinds of things like apartment rentals and housing sales, real estate advertising and that type of thing. But it wasn't connected to a map. And the engineer got it was very easy to figure out the code for how to make a map in Google Maps. And he just matched the data up together, and you got this mashup, which is seen here. And that's what's happening now. That's the second tech craze that we're seeing out there as well. And it's really exploding. And what I like about this is this is where you're going to get the homegrown types of applications. Silicon Valley is where you're going to get, the big, heavy industry types of applications, a lot of innovation. But if we're also talking about spurring economic development in Illinois and outside of the big tech centers in Illinois, this is the space, because the barriers to entry to do a mashup are very, very low. One reason why is that the people that provide information for mashing up also do it in a very open way. They share their code. They share the know-how of how to do it. And they write their applications so that others can add to it. It's different than the old days of Microsoft, for example, where you write code so nobody else can figure out how you do it. This is the complete opposite. So going back to that Adele song, it's like giving away all the music tracks on the internet for free. And this is the kind of thing that's going to really drive economic development and regional development across our state. So, I can imagine, I did a thing on WILL, and I love listening to the ag shows that are on there. And I love looking at the innovations that are happening in the agricultural space. And I was talking with a couple of the big machine manufacturers, where they're thinking about how do we give away some of our data so we can have more local development of applications that have input from different farmers joining up with people that understand mashup and making customized applications that could be running in tractors and things like that. And that to me is very exciting, and we see experiments with this like in developing countries. In India, for example, I've seen some examples where they've given away some of the telemetric data about some of the equipment and then some of the government data about agricultural related stuff. And then we're seeing folks from Bangalore, which is their Silicon Valley, mashing up some applications that run on smartphones, for the farmer. It's that kind of innovation I think is going to happen now that's going to extend from the Silicon Valley and really be relevant to us locally as well. And I think our government, the local government, can really play an important role to help foster that by making information available and that kind of thing. Another key mashup was around Hurricane Katrina. The government maps were actually flooded. There were a couple of folks just went to Google Maps and then sent a word out across the internet and social media, said, hey, if anybody goes in, just send us your information. We'll post it here, and you make it available. And so this is a way that citizens actually helped with the relief and helped the local government in this effort. And then, of course, you see it with application development. This example with Washington, D.C., for a contest. So the winners got, I think, $1,500 or something like that. But the return on investment was like a 2,000% return on investment, and you just let citizens have at your data. But to do this is you've got to really address some issues, and this is the second big concern that I have about e-government is how do you develop the right types of resources and capabilities. And so developing your website requires a lot of know-how about the technology, and you also have to redesign the organization at the same time. So there are a lot of challenges. I apologize for this next slide. I actually forgot to fix it. But the other thing you got to remember is that when you're doing your e-government, you're embedded in a political environment, a financial environment. You've got to deal with organizational issues. And so you've got to develop skills to navigate through those waters. And I talked to a number of local government leaders, and they said this is probably their most important skill to have, is how to get the political support, and organizational support for what they want to do. And then the other big concern is you need to develop the right types of assets in the organizations, the right type of people skills, in terms of knowing how to use the technology, having a good technology platform. Fortunately, the costs are really starting to fall in terms of developing the technology platforms you might need, with more and more services being available through the internet and things like that. And then it's also imperative to have good relationship assets. So what that means is having good connections with vendors and consultants that you can trust, not the ones that are trying to hustle you to make a buck, but really ones that want to collaborate with you, maybe even in the form of a public-private partnership. And maybe extending that type of partnership with other local governments and working collaboratively together to explore how to do e-government and provide these kinds of services as well. When I look at the development of e-government over the years, the governments that do it well will create these like academies. So the state of Washington has done this for years, where they create an IT academy that focuses on e-government, where it brings together all the different agencies that want to get involved with this, and they come together and they learn. And they have they learn how to develop the website, how to do payments, how to do security, how to integrate it with the existing system, how to work with vendors, how to set up the right types of contracts with the vendors, how to measure the performance, and things like that. So, if there's a way for even here within the state to develop that type of academy, that would be, I think, highly effective to continue the opportunities for learning. I think that would be a very effective thing to do as well.
John, we have a question from the field.
Yeah, sure.
This question is from Kathy Brown, and she wants to know if there's evidence of financial gains to local governments who make these investments in e-government.
Is there evidence of financial gains?
Yes.
Yeah, there's some studies that I have started to assess what are the financial gains and what's the payoff or return on investment. Early on, I actually published a number of, I think 3 or 4 different articles on how do you determine the return on investment on it and so forth. The reports that I've seen show that the gains are mixed, and it depends on what you're measuring, how you measure it. They're mixed because a lot of the development work for the back end of the system is like upgrading the sewers in your city. And it's really hard to capture the financial gain of those. The other thing that's real hard to capture is what value are you creating for your citizens as well, because there's so many intangibles there. But there are a couple of studies that are out there, and if you send me an email or we can get your email address, I can share those with you. But the bottom line is that the results are still mixed in this field. There's a giant group going. Okay, sorry, there's a big high school group behind me. Anyway, and I can share that with you as well. But the bottom line is that the financial results are still very mixed on that. Okay.
Great.
So the next important thing is you're creating a honeypot, a place where people want to go and they want to hack into this. And it's a serious problem. It's a serious issue. And that's the bottom line. And I think it's imperative that as you develop your strategy is that you think about and you develop approaches for addressing the risks and vulnerabilities. The security of the Internet, just by the nature of the Internet, is very weak. The Internet is designed to be an open platform for sharing. When the Internet was developed, it was developed so that scientists and the Defense Department could easily share information even if there was an attack of the computer system. So we are still working on technologies for the Internet that were developed in the 60s. The security approach for the Internet actually evolved based on paper operations versus digital operations. And so that's really created a lot of vulnerabilities to our system. And then there's also new security vulnerabilities, especially as we add mobile devices. But I would say probably the most of course, hacking is a source for breaking in that you've got to really worry about. But the other critical thing you've got to worry about is understanding how hackers break in. They use social engineering. So on the slide here, and if you have time, I don't know, you guys, Zach, you guys sent out the PowerPoint slides. So if you get the slides, take a look at this short 60-minute interview with a guy named Kevin Mitnick. Kevin Mitnick was one of the first computer hackers that went to jail, went to prison. And he, in this interview, he describes how he hacked into computer systems. His MO was basically social engineering. He would dumpster dive in the big garbage cans of the big tech companies out in California. He would look through the papers that were in there to try and figure out what kinds of things people were working on. He would look for evidence to try and figure out how to break into the computer system and things like that. So he, one time for Motorola, he got a memo. He dug a memo out of the garbage saying they're working on some new ultra mobile phone. This was 15, 20 years ago. He called the person up and pretended he was somebody else working at Motorola. And next thing you know, within 5 minutes, he got the password and username to get into the system, and then he had somebody also sending him the source code for this new phone that they were developing. And he did it just by social engineering, lying his way into the company. So that was the old way of doing it. Now we're seeing social engineering happening in different ways in this digital space. And here's why it's important. Going back to what we're talking about with the social media like Facebook and Twitter, they're designed to make it easy for you to get connected on the Internet. You're digitizing your life. But the more you digitize your life, the more you're leaving little digital breadcrumbs for somebody else to come and learn about you. So let me give you an example. Remember when Sarah Palin was nominated to be the running partner in the presidential election with John McCain? And remember, within, I believe it was about 5 or 6 days, somebody broke into her Yahoo email account. It was a young guy from Tennessee, and the way he did it was social engineering, but digital form. So he knew that he figured out that she had a Yahoo account. He got that off of a website somewhere, an official website for the state of Alaska, that she had this governor's, address or email with a Yahoo account. He went to Yahoo, and Yahoo asked, a security question, and he went through the sign-up process, and he saw that they're going to ask you one of 8 questions. So he said, if I can get the answer for one of these 8, I have a 1 in 8 chance of breaking into the system. So then he just spent time surfing the web, looking up any public information he could find out about her. And the question that was answered was, like, where did you go to high school or something like that? It was pretty obvious. He typed in and got the right answer. They sent him the new password, and he used that to log in, and next thing you know, he's reading her email. And that's with the digital form of social engineering. In these programs that do security, that train people on how to become IT security specialists and e-government security specialists, the first thing that they do is they learn how to become hackers. And every group, this one school runs this thing, they do this weekend hack fest. And every hacker team, the first thing it would do was identify who's the CEO and chief information officer for an organization and go find out information about that person and then use that social engineer to figure out how to break into the system or how to make contact with that person and so forth. And it's crazy the amount of information that's out there. And so we've got to really think about that as we are putting information on the internet, is what are we doing to protect it from hackers and that kind of thing. And then the third source, of course, are employees within your organization as well, too. And you've got to make sure you've got a lot of controls in place for protecting your own employees from accessing and breaking in and harming your systems as well. Another problem is what I call leaky data, leaky personal data through mashups. One bit of information on one page doesn't seem like much, but when you mash it up in multiple places, next thing you know, you can tell a whole lot about a person. So take a look at this. Remember a year or so ago, a computer person figured out that the Apple iPhone was collecting personal information, security information? Well, again, I apologize for the noise. High school is going, I think, spring break. Anyway, we're looking at my iPhone information, and I couldn't believe it when I saw my own information. And you can see where I am, where I live in Champaign. I went to Michigan, go visit my dad Christmas time. I travel back and forth to D.C. a lot. I had a trip down to South Carolina. We got stuck in the snow and ice in Lexington, so you can see that path we took from Champaign down to South Carolina. I teach a course out at the Navy Postgraduate School, so I'm out there every 6 weeks or so you can see where I am in Monterey, California. And I got married, and so you can see where I went for my honeymoon, Hawaii. So it's crazy, that this is captured in our telephone. And somebody wrote a little hack so you can actually see, your own data. But then imagine this, then lined up with other public information about myself. It's crazy. And people could, paint a whole profile, what I am and how I do, what I do and that kind of thing. And this stuff leaks out on the internet. And you got to be very, very careful about it. The cloud is a big issue. Okay, so the cloud is about using the internet for services. So instead of loading up like Microsoft Word on your computer, the cloud is about a company just giving you access to the software through the internet. So this could be used for storage. It could be used for, the office applications. It could be used for music, for videos. It could be used for high-end statistical software, GIS software. The SurveyMonkey, if you guys are running local surveys and use SurveyMonkey, that's a cloud service. Google Docs is a cloud service. Amazon runs on the cloud. Because it's a whole forest of servers that are all connected together that are available for people to use. So it's an attractive option because it does help to drive down the cost of doing these types of things. But the thing about the cloud you've got to worry about is who owns the data. What's the reputation of the company that's providing the service? Are they going to stick around for a while or not? Because once you put stuff in digital form, it can last in perpetuity. But if the company goes out of business, then what happens? So it's important to work with cloud vendors that are very reputable, that are going to stick around for a while. Where is your data in the cloud? Is it still here in the U.S.? Is it outside of the U.S.? Is it local? Is it far away? And then the other thing you got to worry about is at the cloud company, what are the rules and protocols to protect employees from digging into your information? There was an employee fired from Google who was part of their cloud service team that was looking at data and information stored by companies on the Google Cloud service. So you've got to worry about that as well, too. and those are really big concerns. It's extreme. They're very attractive, and then lastly, you got to worry about performance. Will the system be up 24 hours, 7 days a week? And again, for the cloud to be effective, it goes back to what Barbara mentioned in the first presentation. You need good broadband access, and I can't emphasize that enough. I'll give you a personal story. So last year, I teach a course on geographic information systems. The software now works in the cloud. I was down in North Carolina, and I had dial-up service, and I was using that to get to the cloud. And because the dial-up was slow, it made it nearly impossible for the software to work effectively. And therefore, I couldn't do any of the mapping work that I needed to do because I was depending on the cloud. And it's extremely aggravating. And then here's the problem: is that a lot of the software is being built to work in the cloud, but we're not aware of it. It's very it's not very clear to government leaders that you actually are working in the cloud. We don't really realize it, and so that's something you got to be very wary of. So let me just close with 3 quick things. So to really move forward, it's important that you develop a strategy that focuses your e-government on the individual needs of the people that live in your community. And you make investments in getting the right training in your staff, the right technology architecture within your organization, whether you do it yourself or you use the cloud. And you also need, to develop good relationships with vendors, consultants, and so forth, to help design your systems. But also make good connections with other local governments so you all can be learning together on how to do this stuff. I think that's extremely important. Again, I apologize for this slide. Remember that your systems are embedded. You got to get political support, organizational support, financial support, and so forth. And really look and try and see what are the barriers to get that type of support. And then lastly, build the right types of capabilities, with your people, with your technology platform, and the people that you work with. And finally, like we're learning from social media, you have to be willing to give up some of your information and some of what you're doing to the public, and it's going to be a good source for innovation. Don't be afraid to experiment and play. Set up a space within your computer system that's closed to the public to play around, to learn, to experiment with, and to really work with the things, these ideas firsthand. Create a network with your peers and other government leaders around the state, around the country to learn from and to work with. And, as I say all the time, just have fun with it. Because the more you have fun with it, the more you play with it, the more opportunity there will be for you to come up with the next great idea. So with that said, and again, I apologize for the noise. I just saw 200 high schoolers get shipped away somewhere, so now it's quiet over where I am again. So I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Oh, and by the way, all those high schoolers, I heard their teachers say, no cell phones. So, and all the kids sighed. So, anyway, that human contact is very important at times. So. All right, so anyway, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Again, press #5 to unmute if you'd like to ask a question directly, or you can also type it in the chat box.
As we wait for another question, I have a response to a previous question on the CDAP facility grants. Those had always been designed for water and sewer, and you had to have a threat to health and safety. However, you might consider, if you received one of those, putting fiber in the ditch, because the cost of the fiber is a small part, considering the cost of the trenching. Or throw conduit in there and pull the fiber at a later time. Also, another state code that's new but and seldom discussed, IDOT is required to run conduit along the right-of-way when they remodel roads, rehab roads. But if you don't remind them of that, they may not get that done. So hopefully that would be of some help. Any other questions at this time?
Yeah, we have a question from Kathy Brown. She wants to know, John, have you seen any strong or good examples of utilization of e-government in Illinois?
Oh, well, yeah, a couple things. One, I was part of a team that developed sort of the first protocols for evaluating, comparing all the different states. So that's something I do annually, where I take a look at all the different states and where they are and so forth. I think some of the strengths of Illinois is, Illinois isn't as innovative as other places at the state level around in e-government. Illinois' strategy really emphasizes making information from the different agencies available and that type of thing. And, they've got kind of the standard things you see around for paying taxes and helping at the DMV and so forth. But I haven't seen anything that's like, a strong, that shows a high level of innovation in this, in this space. I think the e-government has always been more as a strategy for cost savings versus an approach for innovation in improving government services.
Thanks.
The city of Chicago, you break it down locally, the city of Chicago has a number of innovations, especially around the open government, making open data available, especially around, transportation types of things, and so forth. I know that, and some other local governments have some pretty innovative things as well, especially like in the mobile space. Yeah. Yeah, are there any other questions or anything?
Okay, well, we are right on time if we plan to end at 5. So thank you very much, Dr. Gant.
Sure.
Again, I'd like to thank Dr. Gant, Research Associate Professor at the Graduate School of Library and Information Science, the University of Illinois. And I'd also like to thank Barbara Webster, Regional E-Team Coordinator with the Partnership for a Connected Illinois. And I'd like to thank everyone that has signed in today and listened to the program. Please complete the evaluations and sign-in sheets and fax those to Annette for credit if you're working on CCOs. And I'd like to remind everyone about the upcoming programs. March 15th, we have Special Structure Assessment, Telenet. And then on April 19th, we have Siting and Permitting Wind Farms in Illinois. So if there aren't any other questions or comments, thank you again, everyone, for participating. And we look forward to the next program. Thank you very much.